Good Wednesday morning. Wow, clear my throat here. Good Wednesday morning. Welcome to Ice HTV, the Internal Combustion Engine Age YouTube channel. That talks about all my cars and trucks and SUVs and motorcycles, the dogs, the kid, the rain. It's raining. Wow, it's Wednesday. Good Lord. As always, good Wednesday morning there to all those that tune in my channel. Thank you so much for being a contributor to support the channel and to help it grow, which that's very nice of you. Appreciate everybody's support and comments, and I love the comments. Everybody interacts, really do like that. And boy, it's raining, and I'm moving quick because it's raining, and I'm gonna get soaked. I don't have any rain gear on. Oh my goodness gracious! We cut grass yesterday for the first time of the season, which borderline I was debating it, but we're gonna be gone through the weekend. It's raining today, some tomorrow, and then the sunshine comes out and the grass will be growing even faster. So just kind of wanted to get that out of the way and get the dogs here in the barn. And oh my gosh, geez, time. What is it about time? How is the bird situation doing? How am I doing on managing the birds from destroying my barn? And I think I'm doing okay because we were out here late last night and got all the cars and the battery tenders. You know, having all these vehicles, it's a challenge. I'm sure many would agree, like, yeah, is it really worth it, Iceman? I hear you. Trust me. I hear you loud and clear. Just too much stuff. Come on, pups. So that's interesting. The Kiefer dog, he's a latecomer because the kid keeps him in her bedroom all night long, and I just let him out. Other guys have been out for a while, so he's still doing business and getting his morning going as well. So here we are in the garage, and my throat. I'm gonna get some water. I started coughing and hacking like you can't believe. I'm sincere because you're the first people to hear me. I'm drinking a different coffee, and guess what's happening? You're hearing me cough, but it's okay because I kind of know what's going on. So excuse me for the obnoxious cough, but it's just the coffee routine, and I like to change it up. I like the coffee tastes better, but here I am trying to get a bottle of water open with one hand and I'm drinking. You can hear me gurgle my water. So I really haven't drank any water all morning, so it's a kind of a... Anyways, so here we are. It's the ongoing conversations, and I like to just get up in the morning and get the day going. And whether we realize it or not, some may be intrigued, like, you know, why do you kind of do this thing in the morning? And it's because I've been self-employed most of my life. And I really have. I've always had, for the most part, a very small business and haven't had a lot of people work for me. But I've managed a lot of people. And I did have a company one time where I did have a lot of people that never played out the right way. So for me, it's always been more of a personal note of me in life of having so much seclusion, of more of a private life, because I'm such the one-man show of my true beginnings of where I kind of came out of high school and got in the parts industry and then got in the fuel industry. And that was a separation for me of interacting with people because I drove a truck all day. And anybody here that's on my channel that's a truck driver, I'm sure you can relate with what I'm speaking of. You become so isolated because, especially back prior to the cell phones, because you didn't have anybody to talk to. So you literally rode around, and that was a huge challenge for me because I came out of the high school, had my friends in the parts industry. I had customers and other employees, so we all interacted with each other. And so a lot of talking, a lot of interaction. But then I went to the silence mode where I wanted to go back to college, or I should say I wanted to go to college, community college, to get freshened up on my basic skills to figure out what I'm doing in my life. And so I quit my full-time parts position, and I went and worked part-time at an oil company as a maintenance driver and just a guy that ran around, did errands for the company. But I became very isolated. So I no longer had that relationship anymore to talk to others. And it was very challenging. And sure, I was going to school part-time. So I went to school in the morning, and in the afternoon I worked. But it was just a total separation of me interacting with people. And it was so depressing to the point that I was going to go back to the parts industry and just start all. Come on, Keith, let's go. I was going to start all over again, back to the parts industry, the car industry. I wonder why I was in the parts industry. Cars. It's amazing how, in so many ways, I never became a car salesman. Get up there, go on. But I was too shy. Whether you realize it or not, I was just very, not the most outgoing person as far as just walking up to anybody and talking to people. So I was very, I even looked at being a insurance agent. And that didn't, I was too shy. I just didn't feel confident to start talking to people I didn't know. And I was very shy in high school. And so anyways, you may not believe that, but that's a fact. But the point I'm trying to convey this morning is, where did the morning conversations come from? Well, as years progressed and I'd have select individuals work for me, we would always kind of just in the morning times just start talking about cars, trucks, the current events. And that was always kind of cool to kind of get the day going. So, and that with Joe, one of my key guys that worked for me for over 12 years, that was a huge interaction of him and I. He even reached out to me at one point and said he really missed his and I morning conversations. So where this morning conversation thing came, it was just something that kind of got the day going. And because we all know, you go to work, the routine starts. And fortunately, I've got a company that can manage and make that all work. So we would spend sometimes 30, 40 minutes in the morning just talking about, like what's going on in the car market, and then, what's going on in the world. And it was really cool. And that was a great thing that I had with one of my key guys that work for me. So for those that are watching my channel, you may just be kind of be like, well, what does this guy kind of get in the morning? And why does he want to start talking about things? And so, Joe was a key guy that worked for me that pushed me for years to start this YouTube channel. And I so resisted it, wanted nothing to do with it. Well, as you can see, obviously his constant preaching I should start a YouTube channel and share who I am came to be. So I definitely give Joe, a really great guy that worked for me for so long, credit to doing this. So that was just more or less me trying to kind of share with others here that watch my channel, what's this kind of all about? It's about me getting my day going and just sharing the love and passion that I have of all my cars and trucks and motorcycles. But at the same time, the concern of where we are in today's world and the state of times. And on my channel, I have to be very careful of me expressing views that would possibly come across offending others and becoming, in some ways, radical, which that just isn't who I am. I try to keep it within reason of what's reality in life and what we all have challenges of, and it's very challenging to want to argue with somebody about a person in office that's just being run by the big guys. So if you look at the channel this week, what I do is I pick a word and I try to keep a one word to create the conversation. So Monday was sharing, Tuesday was choices, Wednesday I thought this is a really good one, but there's no way I'll ever have time to keep the attention of others, or do I have the time to talk about this word? I thought history. And I've never have had the word history. And I thought, wow, if that isn't the most powerful word in some ways of mankind, it is. But I think it's really cool. I've been blessed. I really have. You have no idea how challenging this is financially to make this work. You just have no idea. And I'm not here crying the blues. I'm just sharing with you that this is not easy. This is Is this stressful at times? Yes, it is. It really is. But I live at an age of life where I think that I can have only so much for so long, and one day I just won't have it anymore because of financial obligations and just the well-being of my health, physical capability, so many variables that start to play out as you progress. And until you hit your 50s and your 60s, you just don't really get that. Your body starts to change. You start to have the aches and pains. How many people that have had knee surgery, shoulder surgery, back injury, what goes on and on and on. I mean, it's very challenging as you progress in life and what you can do physically. So with the history, I thought, wow, do I have some of the most iconic vehicles in my collection that are the true history, the true beginnings of this country over 100 years ago? I mean, if you really look around, who was the first well-known manufacturer in our country besides Henry Ford that started Ford in 1908? If you look at the collection of my vehicles, it's a dominant Ford, even though I never grew up a Ford guy. So there's the Ford side. I got a I'm on the Ford guy over 100 years ago. Then you go to the Chevy side, and I believe Chevy was founded in like 1911. Well, here I go. I got the Chevys. And then you go to the Dodge side. The Dodge brothers started like in 1913. So, and you think about it, one of the most iconic name vehicles, if you're a real motorhead, you're going to know I just named them. You know, you're a Ford guy, or you're a Chevy guy, or you're a Dodge guy. I mean, and that's kind of the main for the motorheads. And once again, the history, I've talked about in my channel on all these cars I've bought, the history of them, and then the history of the ICE, the internal combustion engine, when it really started. I have all these conversations in my channel. I'm always so intrigued for all the videos that I make that I don't have more repeat videos. I'm surprised people don't dig up some of my videos that I share incredible information that, and no, by all means, it's nothing that you can't do yourself, but I do have a lot of videos with just a lot of content of information that I go out of my way to read about and learn and try to convey through my YouTube channel the information that I've read that hopefully you can listen to me and learn something from it. But going back to the history of this country, of really what made this country so great. I mean, we know the Industrial Revolution. And this is the reason I'm thinking that the history talk, we know the History Channel, the reason I'm thinking that the history conversation is so cool is because it's really, we're at an age in life, this country, the world, that what made America so great is what now so many hate. Did you just hear that? What made America so great is now what makes so many hate. What do you mean by that, Mr. Iceman? I mean by the internal combustion engine. The Industrial Revolution truly was the true beginnings of this country's the steel, Dale Carnegie, the Rockefellers, the oil. I just said it. Ford, Henry Ford. It was the true beginnings of the industrial pollution of the world. The true beginnings of the demise of Mother Nature by the Green Agenda's views. And I just think to myself, we all witnessed back in 2020, the summer of 2020, just the nastiest media machine we've ever witnessed in modern times, of just the really just wow beyond wow. And if you witnessed it, you saw the history of our country being dismantled. And so I thought to myself this morning, wow, can you even imagine as the years progress, you'll see the green activists burning down Ford's, wherever Ford, I'm not the guy that lives in Michigan or Detroit or whatever, but if there's any statues or buildings or anything that's iconic to the Ford, Henry Ford, the Ford, will those buildings be burnt down because Henry Ford created the demise of Mother Nature, that he was a main contributor. Get this, it was like between 1908 and like 1920 something, 15 million Model Ts. 15 million. So you go 100 years ago. At this time, Henry Ford had produced 15 million carbon footprint polluting vehicles to the world. That was just Ford. You add into Chevrolet, you add into Dodge, then you go across to Europe and you go to the Mercedes, Peugeot, and this is something that's always kind of intriguing, is that who do you think the oldest car company is? And I've talked about this before. So if you watch my channel, you may know this information because I've talked about it. But if you go to the oldest company founded, not actually a car, but the oldest existing company is Peugeot. Meaning back in like 1808, the Peugeot family, that's the name of the family, the founder, Peugeot, that family started that name that eventually evolved in the late 1800s into a car company, and today still stands. And if you're a real automotive enthusiast, you know Peugeot was never, in the American market, a very popular vehicle. It was never looked at as a really great, beautiful, great car to buy. So, and Stellantis now is part of Peugeot, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but I believe the Stellantis, Dodge, Fiat, Alfa Romeo, Ferrari, all these different brands are all under one big umbrella called, Stellantis, which bought out the Fiat Chrysler Automotive Group some years back. So as far as the history, and here's the next thing. When you look at my collection of vehicles, what's like the number one thing you think about when you think about a Chevrolet? Do you think about a Chevrolet Impala? Do you think about a Chevrolet Chevette? Do you think about a Chevrolet Vega? No, you think about a Chevrolet Corvette. What's the number? 1953, I believe, is when the first Chevrolet Corvette was made, with like an inline 650 horsepower motor. So if the Chevrolet brand, what's the number one thing? Corvette. But then right behind it, when you think of Chevrolet, you think about the 1967 Chevrolet Camaro. And was that the 68 and 69? And then they changed it all up in 1970. But you think about the Camaro. So you think about the brand. Once again, Chevrolet. Does the Chevrolet Caprice step by? No. The brand, the history of Chevrolet is notorious for the Corvette and the Camaro. It's the more dominant thing that I think most people would say. And then you go to the Ford. I mean, with Ford, the Model T is the most recognized name per se, but you go to the true beginnings, it's the Ford Mustang. So you go back to the 60s, what was it, 64? When the Mustang came to be. I mean, it's just all these different dates. So for me, I could be off by a year or so, but you can look it up. But here's the thing. The Ford Mustang, think again. Do you think of the Ford Granada? Do you think of the Ford Thunderbird? Do you think of I'm trying to think of all the different cars that Ford, the Gran Torino. I mean, so when Ford pops in your head, you probably say to yourself, the Ford Mustang. That's the most dominant vehicle that Ford has built and continues on. So think about the Ford brand. What Ford car, sedan, or two-door vehicle does Ford build? It's the Mustang. In this market, I believe over in Europe, is the Ford Focus still being built? I'm not sure on that. But the whole point is, it's the Ford Mustang, which I have in my shop. You go to Dodge, I think a lot of people would maybe say the Dodge Charger, which is out there in the driveway getting rained on. That would probably be the more highlighted vehicle. I think the Dodge Charger, believe it or not, even though Challenger, the Cuda, you had the Plymouth, but Dodge, the Charger, look at the Fast and Furious. I mean, look at the movies. What's the big thing? The Dodge Charger. That was always the big highlight of the movie, the badass 60s, real squared off Charger. And who wouldn't love to have one of those? But at the same time, the Dodge Challenger, here is another iconic car that you think of Dodge, you think of Challenger. I don't think you think of the Dodge Durango. I don't think you think of the Dodge minivan. So in the history of the products, the companies I've mentioned, and yes, there's more companies out there, I know that, but I'm just saying for my own collection, I think it's pretty cool that I truly do have one of the collections of really, and what's incredible is in so many ways on how this is gone. It's gone. It's over. The Camaro, yes, it'll probably come back, but I mean, it's gone. But here is something to think about. What two cars in this shop have never been stopped in production? Have you thought about that? So what two cars in my shop have continued always to be built? Well, the Chevrolet Corvette has never, ever been interrupted in production. It has 8 generations. Think about the C1 to C8. This is C7. Ford Mustang, they never stopped building them, even though in the 70s, they looked like the late 70s. Oh, my gosh. Remember those Mustangs? Yeah. So the Mustang and the Corvette have always lived on. The Camaro, it had a burp. It had a blip. The Camaro had production stop for a while. So the Camaro never has stayed as the number one Chevrolet product to be sold, manufactured, as far as never ending to be built. It's had some burps on it having been production stopped. Dodge Challenger, same thing. Dodge Challenger, this car was stopped. Let me tell you what, Kiefer last night hit that fan. Look how close he came to knocking out my car. It just doesn't end. I mean, it doesn't end, man. Look at this here. He freaking blew this all apart. Jesus Christ. Oh my gosh. There's a dog, dogs, right? The German Shepherd. He's a lot of work, man. I mean, he's fun, but Jesus Christ. So he said, what about the flat tire? Yeah, I know. That's another day, another project, because the Harleys are done. Picked those up today. So Dodge Challenger. So it's had its blip. So I just think, I'm blessed at this moment. Hope I can continue to be blessed, because this is expensive stuff. Yes, I know. People reach out all the time, and I think many people, here's the thing. It's a YouTube channel. I speak. You can speak too. And I understand. that some people are like, Jesus Christ, dude, you're just crazy. Right. Well, that's the reason Joe always for so many years said, you need to share your channel. I mean, you just need to share with others what you do. I'm like, yeah, but it's embarrassing in so many ways, because people are looking at me like, wow, this guy's just, wow, who the hell is this guy? So yesterday, I got the first John Deere mowing experience, and so cool. One of the subscriber reached out to me. He has this exact same unit, and he taught me something. He's like, you didn't set your deck up correctly. And for the record, the John Deere dealer never did take time to show me how to set up this deck. But apparently up underneath here, there is a setting in there, and I'm looking right now at that one pin that's kind of sitting there that's not attached to anything. So I bet you that's what he's talking about. That I'm supposed to set this deck up not based on the caster wheels there, but based on a underneath there. So, I have no idea. But I cut the grass, but I noticed when I cut the grass, those casters were like cutting into the grass. So it did a pretty good job, but it doesn't do a good job as my 2025 R did. But it did good, and it was nice. It gets the job done. Very muddy. I can't get over how muddy it is over my field. I mean, if I hadn't had four-wheel drive and that thing, I'd have been stuck. Yeah, I've gotten stuck out in that field and zero-turn mowers and all that good stuff. So anyway, now look at, when did Ford build its first truck? So when was the first TT, Model TT, I guess, for Model T truck, I think it was 1917. So there's the next thing. If you look at my collection, as I said earlier, I truly have the true beginnings of the Ford, I should say the truck of this country was Ford. It wasn't until a few years later that, like a year or two later, that Dodge and Chevy came to compete with Henry Ford with a truck. So it's just really intriguing to think that here is 2024, and you're talking now, 107 years ago, that Ford introduced its first truck in this country, 100 years ago. You ever just think to yourself, and I think about this all the time, it's 100 years ago, what was going on? And I think about my mother's father, because my mother's father, he has an interesting story, because sadly, as a young boy, he lost his mother. So his father had to remarry. And when his father remarried, he brought a son into the world called Lon. And Lon was totally opposite of my mother's father. So my mother's father was a rebel in so many ways. He was the black sheep of the family. He decided to drop out of high school and then, for the most part, pursue a living as a farmer. Versus his brother, Lon, decided to go to the military. And down in Florida, there's a picture of him on my father's desk in his living room. And I've talked about him before, but I think it's to myself 100 years ago. Where was my father, Clarence, that's what his name was, Clarence, what was he doing? And so, because I know the history, of course, of my mother and her family, and versus his brother, stepbrother, Lon. So his stepbrother, Lon, became a well-to-do military guy that eventually came out of the military and became a congressman for the state of Tennessee. So he's in so many ways, an astute individual. Versus my mother's father, he was a cotton farmer. He was an individual that was, in so many ways, very poor. And I think this day, picture you getting up today with the spring, with the growing season upon you. And you got to get two mules out, and you got to go get discs that have all the apparatus to put around your body. And now you have two mules in front of you, and you've got the disc to have the mules pull you in the disc as you walk your field to create the plantings for the future of cotton. Think about that. Wow. Could you do that? Could you physically have the capability to do that? I mean, I think about our forefathers and what they did. Oh my gosh. It's beyond believable of how they survived and the physical punishment on their body and what they accomplished. Just beyond believable. And so for my mother's father, he attempted 5 times to have boys, and to no avail. He never had one boy. He had 5 girls. So my mother grew up as a cotton picker. Yes. And she grew up where she didn't have a bathroom. They didn't have running water. They didn't have heat. They didn't have electricity. That's how my mother grew up. So and I'm sure there's many people on my channel that can share these same stories. And for the sheer history of our country, of just the incredible determination and hardships that so many gave and sacrificed for our country. I mean, I could talk about my uncle, who was my favorite uncle growing up, that lived in Nashville, Tennessee. His name was Walt. He was a character. He just wanted to play all the time. And he was going to be, he was being recruited to be, for the Boston Red Sox, a pitcher. And I've talked about him as well. So this isn't per se 100 years ago, but at the same time, he would have been around because he'd been born around this time 100 years ago. And so he'd just been a little boy growing up in New Jersey. But for him, he was recruited into the war, not recruited into the Boston Red Sox. And sadly, he was, I believe, one of my cousins and my mother probably, there's a dog. What the hell is he doing up there now? Jesus Christ. I don't even want to know, right? As far as I know, I think he was there at D-Day, I think. I'll have to clarify that. I just, too much information. But the whole point is, he got shrapnel in his eye. So that ruined his career to be a professional baseball player. But he didn't give up because he played, he's continued to play baseball, but he was never able to become what he thought he was going to be because he had to commit to protecting our country. I mean, it's just incredible what we're witnessing in our world today. It's so much. And that's what I'm saying, the history of these cars, of what brought this country to be what it is. But in so many ways, you think when it's just a ticking time bomb of the history of this country wanting to be undermined like never ever seen because of the ideology that is on our doorstep. And like I say, you go so many years in the future, and one of these things being found and being burnt to the ground. I mean, it sounds radical. I don't think it's going to happen. But at the same time, we're living in today's society that wants to tarnish history. It's beyond believable in so many ways. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the whole country and everything's going radical, but at the same time, it's not so far-fetched because of this ice age that so many believe as time progresses, if Mother Nature doesn't correct itself and things just continue to get worse and worse. But what's interesting about this is we're all focused on the green agenda and the well-being of the environment, where the world is at war with one another. That hasn't been so in many years. And I mean, we don't even know about all the wars going on out there. I mean, it's beyond believable if you really start researching all the countries of what is going on. There's a lot going on out there, and it just isn't really the focus. The focus is, sadly, about a guy having to post bail or bond or whatever you want to call it to appeal a frickin' judgment against him. And what's the main news of today besides just the constant rhetoric of the two political parties that don't like each other, but they do, but they don't, but they do. Yeah, right. It just gets, forget that, waste of time. Plenty of other YouTubers out there that can go on to that conversation, and the dire straits of the car market. So here's the Harleys taking Harleys down, but not these. So the pretty cool Frederick Harley Davidson. I made a video yesterday about how Frederick Harley Davidson was my true beginnings of Harley. And once again, I have videos that talk in great depth about the true beginnings of Indian, Harley Davidson, Honda. So if anybody's interested in those videos, I have those videos on my channel where I have these in-depth videos. Hey, one of my YouTubers brought up a good point, and he may be right. So this is the Dodge Challenger, the Gold Rush that sits next to the black Camaro. Some loving has rubbed off on the Camaro. Yes, now there's Gold Rush in the Camaro. People are like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, I painted a back piece of cardboard for my little metal architecture upstairs. That's a design of a Dodge Challenger, and I got creative and got paint out, and I painted it to look like my Dodge Challenger here. And when I did that, one of my subscribers claims he believes that is where this overspray came from onto this car, because they're saying and how it doesn't make so. If you look over here, but it was fluorescent. It was a fluorescent color. So see here, here's the guilt. Here's the scene of the crime right here. So as I'm painting in here, hello, duh. But I'm trying to think, did I have that car here? I can't remember. I can't keep track. Probably did. So his theory is that spray is what came over this car and got into this car. But it'd be more of a fluorescent color, which probably is. Which he's got great eyes. I mean, I love it when my subscribers watch my channel and they pick things up and they tell me, say, hey, Iceman, duh. Hey, dude, duh. I take that. I mean, I love that stuff. I really do. I mean, I don't take it as you being per se critical of me. I take it more of being like, hey, man, I love to watch your channel and I see things that maybe you don't see, and let me try to reach out and try to help you out. And there you go. And hopefully on my YouTube channel, people learn things from what I do to, they're like, wow, I never even realized that. So one YouTube subscriber reached out yesterday and said on that Harley Davidson CVO ST, it has that new technology, which I really don't like. He claims that when you have the bike on, you do the hold the turn signals down, and then an icon shows up on the computer screen near the speedometer that shows it to be transport mode. So I don't know. Even the dealer Frederick Harley I went to yesterday, even the service guy's like, I don't really know. I'm not sure on that. And so yesterday I made that video about me having my true beginnings of my Harley, creating my Harley days, which that's a video if you want to watch it. But he was talking about how, and this is kind of intriguing, he says that the reason you can't Bluetooth your phone, your Apple, your Droid, right to the new technology on the new Harleys is because apparently Apple or whoever doesn't want you to have access to your phone being that easy to. I mean, this doesn't make any sense to me, but just hear me out. He was basically saying that Harley doesn't want the liability, or Apple or Droid don't want the liability of you doing that. They'd rather have you headset it to your headset, which, if you know what I'm talking about, here's the headset, I think, back here, is it? I don't even know where it is. I'll have to find that. Where did I put it? So I've got my Bluetooth headset, which I need to set up. And so he's saying that it's a liability. So they don't want the liability. I don't know. So the new technology, you have to take your headset there to get the bike to pair for your music and intercom and all your other stuff, which is like, yeah, wow, right? Where the hell is that now? Oh, it's in my saddlebag. That's where it is. But anyway, so the ongoing conversations of the history and so the history of all the cars, and I mean the history of mankind, and what's this weekend about? It's the history of Easter, right? If you understand all that stuff, and Ramon, if you're into religion, you understand it's the different times of year, things going on, being recognized as we get ready to go to Tennessee tomorrow. And today, the guy called me late yesterday to come get the bike. So I was like, nah, I got too much going on to do that. But the whole point is, I was really wanting not to be in the rain to get the bike. And so for me, I'm driving the motorcycle, the real motorcycle trailer over here. And what's pretty cool is that's just a regular plywood, composite material, whatever it may be in that motorcycle trailer, so you don't slip. On a rainy day, on these two other motorcycle trailers, it's so bad. The material they use on these things is so stupid because you're going to slip. You're on a linoleum surface. Can you imagine trying to have a motorcycle go up a ramp when it's wet on a linoleum surface? I mean, what's going to happen? You're going to be slipping inside an arbor place. I mean, your bike might come up from underneath you. So the good news is I've got the motorcycle trailer that doesn't have that challenge because when I travel, I'm very abreast to the weather because if it's going to be raining, like tomorrow instead of today, and I got to be leaving town in a few days, I'm going to load everything up the day it's still dry out because it's risky. Until you load motorcycles, unload them on trailers. Oh my gosh. Unload a motorcycle on a wet ramp, linoleum, odds are you'll be laying on the ground. Yes, you will be. So busy here with me. The splitter up front, that won't get done till next week at best. Just too busy. Want to get out of town. Want to get down to Tennessee and have some fun down there. We haven't been down there in a while. So anyways, we get up here in the office with my dog has done to my office, right? And now we're getting more information about that shipping truck shipping out there in Baltimore that took out the Francis Scott Key bridge. Come on, Pops, get up here. Come on. Yeah, I'm scared to see what's even up here when I come up here. Keefy boy, on what he's done. He was eating the mouse the other day. All right, well, looks like everything's not too bad, thank goodness, right? Anybody know these stories? If you have history of the dogs and everything else. And the Ice Age TV sign. What do you think of that, huh? What do you got there? That's scary when I hear something like that drop. What the hell was that? I don't know. All right. Went by my garage store yesterday and hung out with the guys there for a while. See what's going on. And explained to them about how the Trackhawk makes no sense. So there's the Dodge Challenger. That's just cardboard that I got creative to spray paint. And so, yeah, I'd have to agree that it's possible that that's what happened. And that stuff ain't coming off easy. Just so you know, I've tried the cleaner wax and everything. You got to use a heavy clay. I mean, it's a project. It's going to be a project to wipe that whole car down. It'd be like painting a car. Basically, that's going to be like me having to wet sand a car to repaint it. I'm not going to wet sand it, but I'm saying is it's going to take a hand rub of just hours and hours and hours of me getting that material off that car. I've told people all the time, I don't qualify to have these type of cars. There's just no way. I don't. I know that. It isn't going to work because of the shop that I'm in. And I just really don't want these high-end collectible cars. I don't want it because it's just, I've talked about it a gazillion times. So the history of mankind, I think we all kind of know that if you're the person who went to college, I mean, I didn't go to college. I mean, yeah, I went back to community college to take fresh up my math and English and science, a little bit of history. I didn't really take, I only went there basically not even like one semester. So it wasn't that very long a thing. But other people that went to college and you learn all about what I'm speaking about, it's very beneficial. You're very smart, and I give you credentials for that for doing that. That's because you stayed committed. For me, I'm just a guy that got out of high school and just never stopped working, and just kept working and working and working, and that's kind of how I got to be who I am today. And going through sales is what really, in the end, which I never would have thought. For the history of me, I thought I'd be a truck driver, which in so many ways I ended up being a truck driver. That's what I was talking about earlier, is if you're a truck driver, you can totally relate where you're so independent in so many ways because you're so isolated from interacting with so many other people. But now as I've gotten older, in all reality, do I want to have to manage a bunch of people? I don't. I mean, I've done that years ago, and here's what's really intriguing. So John Deere, think about John Deere. Here's another, icon product that I have. Even though as a Kubota guy, growing up, I just always wanted a Kubota. I always thought Kubota was really the better price vehicle or tractor, and and I never really was a John Deere guy. But here's the irony: my first name is my uncle's last name. So my mother and father named me for my first name, her one sister's husband, and my middle name for my mother's other husband, who was supposed to be the Boston Red Sox player's middle name, and then my father's last name. So, but my first name is from my uncle, who started a John Deere tractor dealership back like in the late 20s, 30s, I believe that was the time frame. And in the end, it went bankrupt. So think about this. So here you go, not 100 years ago, well, probably close to it. And here I go out and I start a lawn and garden equipment dealership. It wasn't the John Deere brand, but in the end, it was a disaster for me and my life, as far as trying to take a business and create a business for just in complete failure. So what's the odds of that, right? My first name was jinxed out of the right out of the gate. So anyways, I think that's kind of about all I got to say this morning, because you can go to the history and oh my gosh, we can talk about history forever and ever and ever. And hey, they got the History Channel, right? So as always, got my Ice Age TV sticker here, and if anybody out there wants to share the channel, Ice Age TV comments at gmail.com, and I'll mail you a sticker. I just mailed one out the other day to another person that is intrigued in my channel. I appreciate those that reach out and share the support and how they like my channel, which keeps it going, which I've talked about that forever. But the shipper thing, who knows? Do you think it was intentional? I mean, some people think it's intentional, but here's the thing. The ship was saying Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. So apparently the reason there weren't any cars going off that bridge was because that the ship was giving commands way ahead of time for that bridge to shut down traffic, because it knew it was destined to hit that bridge. So you have to kind of wonder if that was really more of a terrorist attack. I mean, don't you think it'd have been more, they wouldn't have said anything, or they would have done that in the daytime? There are tons of cars on there. And sadly, for the guys that work on the bridge, I mean, you'd have to guess that sadly there's a lot of sad people today from losing their loved ones. So hearts and prayers out to those that have anybody that's, was part of that. Wow. Incredible. So anyways, there it is. A lot going on. Got a busy day. And can we get everything packed up and get the heck out of here and go to Tennessee tomorrow? I hope you can. And have a great Tennessee weekend. And I can share my video down there, or being down there, and the conversations and some riding time. And that would be really good. And weather's supposed to be pretty decent. So stay tuned for that. And as always, share the channel. And I hope everybody has a blessed day. And God bless. Stay safe and stay tuned.